Hello Commanders, Commander PLATER here, back with another Elite Dangerous video. Today I'm talking about the new update that's coming out, 2.2.03. Now what we're looking at here is especially looking at the combat balancing, because that's what affects me most as a player. I am a combat player primarily, and you'll often find me in conflict zones, resource extraction sites, nav points. Any assassination mission I can get my hands on that pays me a decent amount of money, I'm going to be killing people all over the place. Now, so something that's going to affect me particularly is the balance between fixed and gimbaled weapons, so I'm going to start off talking about that initially, and the idea is to help basically bridge the gap between the two different types of weapons, because at the moment, especially with fixed and gimbaled, you know, the gap between the lower end and the upper end of damage certainly is much higher than it's intended to be. I typically see most people using gimbaled weapons instead of fixed weapons, especially on smaller ships. They tend to side on the fixed, bigger ships, gimbaled. Now there will be some people out there who are going to say to me I'm wrong and they use them. Okay, that's cool, that's great, you probably do, but I'm talking on a generalization here. I'm not saying no one uses them. So a couple of things they're going to be changing over is for the kinetic weapons initially. We're talking about increasing clip size for the fixed multi-cannons, and that's from 100 shots from 90. They're going to clean up the reload time for all fixed multi-cannons. Now it's going to be 4 seconds for fixed, 5 seconds for gimbaled, which makes sense because you have a trade-off from being able to aim to letting the computer do it for you. They're also going to have the clip size for all fixed cannons increased to 6 shots from 5, and they're also going to change the reload time for fixed cannons, and they're reducing it to 3 seconds from 4. They're increasing the ammo reserve size for all fixed cannons from 100 to 120. And also there's going to be some reduced weapon capacitor drain by 10% for all fixed pulse, burst and beam weapons. So that's obviously going to increase the amount of fire that can be put out by these weapons. Gimbal weapon tracking angle is going to be linked to your ship sensors and rebalanced, so the higher the level of your ship sensors, the wider the angle for the tracking of the gimbal. Now certainly at the moment I tend to run with low sensors. Anything for about 6 kilometers is more than enough for me, but this is probably going to be a bit of a game changer for me and going to cause me to go and rejuggle some things. So moving on, we're talking about defending modules. Now again, at the moment typically what happens is everyone pummels all of their possible resources into shields, shield boosters, all that kind of stuff, and it means that once your shields are down, you're done, you're dead, unless you're pretty lucky. And the reason for that being is not because your hull's no good, but it's because that your module's going to be shot out. Suddenly you've got no thrusters, no FSD, you're stuck. Now what they're adding in is defending modules. So you'll be able to have a module defense pack, and you're able to purchase it in outfitting, and what that will do is that will improve your integrity of the modules you have, and then essentially you'll be able to repair them with your automated field maintenance kits and stuff like that. Obviously how they work out in real time, will they be overpowered? The beta's going to show that to us. Next up we're talking about cannons. As already mentioned, they do have increased clip size, as well as some other things in there, and they're also increasing the damage on cannons in total by 15%, on gimbals and turrets, and then on all fixed cannons is going to be 25%. Now that's essentially to encourage people to use cannons, because they're good weapons, they have a decent damage output, but the hit rate due to the way that they tend to track targets aren't so great, and the slow moving projectile. So on to plasma accelerators. Now I can officially say I have never used one. I'm probably missing out, and I will probably be having a look at them again. So first of all, with plasma accelerators, they are going to be having some changes made to them, and I won't go into it in too much detail, and all this is on the forums if you want to go and have a look. Plasma accelerators are now going to have access to a plasma slug special effect. This is going to allow them to consume fuel rather than ammo, which some cases that's going to be really good, other cases maybe not so much. The reload time for plasma accelerators has been reduced by 25%, so that's from 8 seconds to 6 seconds, which adds an increase of about 11% to sustained DPS, which is essentially what combat's all about, how much damage you can put out in a set period of time. All plasma accelerator damage has also been increased by 10%, and the plasma accelerators now totally ignore damage resistances and deal absolute damage. Not sure how I feel about that one, because typically plasma accelerators, plasma would indicate heat, so you'd assume a lot of it would be heat damage that they're outputting, but there's some changes to be made there. Obviously, there are going to be some interesting practices, I guess, with how things are going to look out and people using weapons in different ways and different loadouts, but that's certainly the idea behind this update, or this aspect of it. Next up, beam versus burst lasers. So at the moment, I guess a lot of people either pick one type of laser or the other, and there's not a huge amount of mixing with the kind of pulse, burst and beam. They all sit in slightly different places. Now they're doing some changes around the beam and burst lasers, again to make them more balanced and hopefully encourage more variety from people. Now what they're going to be doing is reducing the reactor requirements for beam weapons by 10%. They're also reducing draw of burst weapons by 15%. This will obviously encourage people to use them, as well as increasing the DPS and making them a lot more efficient. Now, torpedoes aren't having any changes, except for the fact that at the moment they seem to be affected by ECM a lot, but they're going to be looking at focus change later on down the line before they change anything particularly. Now, onto frag cannons. Frag cannons are going to have their the ability to have their reload time reduced from 2.5 seconds from 5 seconds. They're also having their armor piercing reduced as well, which exact numbers you can have a look at, otherwise it gets too confusing. And also they are doubling the ammo capacity. Now that's again because people tend not to use them. Again, I'm sure there's lots of people out there who do use them in the right scenarios, but a lot of people tend not to. Okay, onto railguns. Now they're fairly underused at the moment. In particular, they're hoping that with the module defense packs are going to increase reliance on hull and make it easier for people to be able to, or more useful should I say, for people sniping at modules. Now, changes to the NPC accuracy with railguns should make them less uncannily good with them, because at the moment they literally will one-shot you to pieces, and I have never been missed when an NPC has shot at me with a railgun, so I'm hoping they manage to do something about that. But then again, I fly a Corvette, so I am a massive target. Now, missiles aren't having any changes. They need to see how everything else balances out first of all. And next up, we've got a bit of an interesting one, which is the Reboot Repair and with shields. So at the moment, when you reboot and repair, your shields drop, you go offline, you basically crawl to a stop and or float along whatever speed you happen to be going at before, and if you're lucky, your modules come back online. Now, what they're changing with it is, so what's going to happen is they're going to be able to reboot and restart, and what that's going to do is that is going to bring your shields back up at 50%. That's brilliant. Now, to limit the potential combat use of this, because it's designed to be used outside of combat, because it's pretty unusual for someone to just completely shut down whatever they're doing whilst they're in combat and restart it. Seems pretty unlikely to take all your defenses offline and leave yourself as a target. Now, they've made it so that you have to be moving at a slow speed, and then you'll be able to do that, otherwise you will be left shieldless. Now, they haven't said what the speed that will be, but I guess we'll see and find out in the beta as things come. So that was just a little brief talk about the upcoming changes to combat and how it could potentially affect us commanders. I'm Commander Plater. I want to thank you for watching. I want you to like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff if you like this video. And also, guys, remember, turn on notifications. It's that little bell icon. Make sure you go into it on my channel, click it so you get an update every time I put a new video out. Once again, I'm Commander Plater. Thank you for watching. Commander Plater out.